Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. Jobs-less Friday with the government shutdown and no numbers released. What are we to do? Austan Goolsbee, Chicago Fed president, joins us.
It's the first Friday of the month. We're sitting here on the quietest jobs day. Something's wrong with the universe.
Where does a data-dependent central bank go from here?
What the market expects is not in the Fed's mandate. What should be in the decision of the Fed are the economic conditions, unemployment and inflation.
And Perplexity, out with a new artificial intelligence browser, Comet. Founder and CEO Aravind Srinivas explains the next era of AI assistance.
Building something like Comet requires orchestration of several different models. One model that truly reasons, one model that pulls context, one model that synthesizes and processes them, another model for like computer use.
Those conversations, plus Apple removes an app that tracks ICE agents. But what's the difference between that app and Waze, which tracks police?
I don't want violence to anybody who could be identified in any of these things.
You don't want to get a ticket either.
It's Friday, October 3rd, 2025. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernan and Andrew Ross Sorkin. And here we go. It's a Jobs Friday without any jobs.
I still say it is a Jobs Friday.
It is Jobs Friday.
It's Jobs Friday.
It's Jobs Friday. There's just no report that is coming.
Right.
So we're going to guess our way through this.
Because I'm certainly not willing to give up Friday.
No.
Okay.
No.
Right.
It's like Taco Tuesdays, Jobs Fridays.
I'm not willing to give those up either.
And we are on day 3 now of the government shutdown. The Senate expected to vote again today on the same proposals that failed Tuesday and Wednesday. Senate Majority Leader John Thune saying that after today, weekend votes are unlikely. Democrats insisting any funding bill extend health subsidies due to expire at the end of this year. Republicans say the issue should be dealt with separately. Yesterday, President Trump announced that he would meet with Office of Management and Budget Director Russ Vought about the talks over the agency cuts. And we're going to see where all of that ultimately shakes out.
There's a lot of great things about 2025. Healthcare, I mean, you know, medical advances, great
I thought you were going to
growth.
say healthcare insurance.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, that's not great. That's not great.
Advances that you can't afford. It's great.
Yeah, but it's not because of subsidies. It's because it's a disaster. Kimberly Strassel today urging Republicans, please, you're either going to have the Democrats are going to have to give in and be chastised for what they did, or Republicans are going to own the calamity that is Obamacare. And that's the reason that keeps costing more and more and more. It's not because we're not extending COVID-era super subsidies. It's because it doesn't work right. It doesn't work right in terms of holding costs down. And Republicans should have had the wherewithal and the stomach to years ago to propose something different, because now it's probably too late.
Look, we've all talked about the need, and by the way, President Trump talked about this, said he was going to do it the first time around, that he was going to fix health care. Let's try to fix health care. Let's do it. Well, in a good way, though.
You can't really, I don't know if you can fix Obamacare. That's the problem. There's so many things that are implied with it.
Well, there are some things that are bipartisan that they probably could do. If you find ways to reduce some of the fraud, if you say everybody's got to have a little skin in the game, you got to pay $10
but the way it's
copay to come
designed,
through with this
it almost
sure
induces
That's what I mean. Add a
bad
copay.
things to happen.
And there probably should be limitations. There probably should be caps on it. I don't know if it's 120,000. That seems like a relatively low number to have a cap on it. But if you're at 400,000, you probably should not be getting any of these subsidies that come along. It's
right. Kimberly Strassel continuing to shovel money into temporary COVID area bonuses to avoid a cliff isn't even as good as putting a Band-Aid on a femoral artery bleed. It's actually making the cut bigger. It makes things. It's going to be worse down the road.
Apple removing Ice Block and other apps from its app store that can be used to anonymously report sightings of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement agents. The move coming after pressure on the tech giant from Attorney General Pam Bondi. The FBI said last week that a gunman who attacked an Dallas ICE facility had recently searched apps tracking the presence of ICE agents. Now, in a statement to NBC News, Apple said, "We created the App Store to be a safe and trusted place to discover apps based on information we've received from law enforcement about the safety risks associated with Ice Block. We've removed it and similar apps from the App Store. Now, Ice Block had been downloaded more than 1 million times since it was introduced this year, according to data provided by NBC News, the app tracking firm App Figures. It's an interesting one because we also, I'm shocked it's been allowed all these years. You know, when you go, and people take it for granted now. You go on.
I know what you're going to say.
You go on Google Maps or Waze or any of these things.
You know where the police are.
And it shows you where the police are.
Like Fuzzbuster, the original.
There's all of these other apps that will show you. You can listen in now if you want to the police radio scanners and things. I mean, there's lots of
I think in this case, though, they're worried
access.
about violence against the ICE agents.
Right.
With Fuzzbuster, with Waze, you're basically saying, okay, I'm going to slow down because I know there's a police officer here. But I've thought the same thing with Waze.
Oh, no, I
Google
appreciate
Maps
that. All I'm suggesting is until one, knock on wood, or the plastic here, until one day that somebody uses it for a different reason.
Right. That's true. Yeah. I've always, just even the idea of using it as a fuzzbuster, you know, you're invading enforcement.
To commit a crime, you mean? Or they use, what do you mean? They invade your privacy somehow? What do you mean use it for a different reason?
Well, if you know where the police are.
I'm suggesting if there is...
to commit a crime or something?
Or to...
I'm saying if there, let's say there's a terrible, violent criminal who decides they want to kill the police. And they see that the police...
So
that's why I don't even want to talk about it on television. I'm just saying the question about all of these apps that we live with today that allow you to find all sorts of types of people. And that's the thing. And this is the thing. We've either decided that we should have an app universe or a technology universe where we can track lots of different types of people as long as they're public,
I was going to say, by the way, they're tracking us.
And they're tracking us. As long as it's public, everybody can track everybody. Or you really should decide that you really shouldn't do this, and this is a bad policy across the board. The idea that we are specifically, look, I don't want any violence to folks in the ICE, people working for ICE, but I don't want violence to anybody who could be identified in any of these things.
You don't want to get a ticket either.
Right.
Sure, but I think that in the trade-offs of life...
Hey, there's nothing that's private. You know, phone numbers, addresses...
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I'm actually surprised. Really. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised that Apple's taking it down. Probably, I imagine, given whatever government pressure, from Pam Bondi. But the idea that, and that's another interesting idea, the idea that one group of police should be,
ICE, yeah.
Shouldn't be
one group of law enforcement.
One group of law enforcement shouldn't be, identified on one of these services, but everybody else should. There's a lot of interesting things. Some people carry cameras, some people don't carry cameras. There's lots of things going on. California Governor Gavin Newsom reacting to the Trump administration's 10-point plan for universities that want preferential access to federal funds. Newsom threatening to pull billions of dollars in state aid to any California university that signs on to the proposal. The Trump administration plan includes demands to cap international undergrad enrollments, ban the use of race or sex in hiring and admissions, and a 5-year tuition freeze. Newsom says his state will not bankroll schools that sell out their students, professors, researchers, and surrender academic freedom. The University of Southern California was among the 9 schools receiving letters from the White House, and this is going to create a real battle between the state and the federal government insofar as these universities rely in large part on subsidies from both.
Yeah, I was just trying to look up who. My guess would be more from the state, but
it's more from the state. So the truth is that he has more leverage to some degree. But if you look at the budgets of these universities, all of which would argue that they need more money, not less, it creates a real conundrum.
Core funding comes from the state of California for the University of California.
Right. Well, that's USC. Yeah.
Yeah, for University of California. Oh, USC. They said that's not.
Yeah, it's private.
Cheese will be next.
Coming up, Perplexity, the $20 billion artificial intelligence startup, is out with a new browser. Founder and CEO Aravind Srinivas calls it more of an AI personal assistant than anything else.
Most of the AIs are working on the foreground. You ask it something and it's responding synchronously to you on that chat window. The future is AIs that are just doing work for you, even as you sleep, without you even asking for it.
Squawk Pod will be right back. The future of AI. This is Squawk Pod.
Up and Andrew, Q.
You are watching Squawk Box on a Friday morning, normally Jobs Friday. We don't have the jobs numbers for you, but we do have a lot of other news for you and some amazing guests. I'm Andrew Ross-Sorkin along with Joe Kernan and Becky Quick. This is an exciting one. Perplexity rolling out its AI browser Comet to all users this week. And joining us right now in an exclusive interview is Perplexity's founder and CEO, Aravind Srinivas. It's great to see you. Congratulations on doing this. I'm sort of fascinated by what this really means. For those who don't know what Comet is, who haven't used it yet, I, by the way, have been playing with it a little bit now, trying to integrate it even into my calendar. We can discuss that in a second. What is happening here?
So Comet's not just a browser. It's meant to be a true personal assistant. And when you hire an assistant or anyone to join your team to help you do your tasks, one of the things you just take it for granted is their ability to use the internet, their ability to use search, web browsing, and all the tools that exist out there on the open web. That's not something you can take for granted with an AI, because the model is obviously giving it reasoning capabilities, but AI is clearly going to only deliver value as an end-to-end orchestrated system that knows how to use the browser, how to upload files, how to download them, how to pull context from relevant tools and data that's only relevant to you and nobody else. So that's where AI is clearly headed next. It's not just about answering questions or being a sycophant chatbot that tells you good stuff you want to hear. It's truly about delivering value and you being able to delegate tasks to it.
So let's talk about some of those tasks, because obviously the biggest bottleneck, I think, in all of our lives at the moment, at least in mine, is dealing with both email and my calendar. And frankly, I wish this could also deal with text messages and Slack messages and WhatsApp and the various different messaging systems that are taking place. But coordinating all of that, you are effectively now setting it up so you can connect into these services and schedule stuff via AI, have emails written for you. How good do you think that technology is right now, and what are the risks at the same time?
I think the technology is getting really good. In addition to Comet, we have a product called the Email Assistant. The main paradigm shift there is it's going to be working in the background. Most of the AIs are working on the foreground. You ask it something and it's responding synchronously to you on that chat window. The future is AIs that are just doing work for you, even as you sleep, without you even asking for it. It's auto-drafting your responses to emails that were sent while you were not even active on your device. It's scheduling your meetings on your behalf and moving things around even without you asking for it. And it's prioritizing your emails that are sent to you. That's the future. We're moving more towards asynchronous multitask capabilities.
Right.
And that's why we're building something like Comet and background assistance there too. In terms of challenges, it's mainly the ability to pull context reliably, which is, the thing that's solved with all the progress in frontier reasoning models. And security-wise, we are very clear that none of the data is violating the SOC 2 compliance. So as a company, we are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, and we just try to ensure that all the data is securely stored and logged.
Well, so that's what I was going to ask in terms of where the email ultimately gets stored and logged, where the calendar gets stored and logged, because for it to work, I would think the best, you would actually want to ingest all of the email. This is why I've always thought that someone like Google should have an advantage just about over everybody, because they have the email sitting on their servers right now to the extent that they want to allow their AIs to read them. How should we think about that?
You don't need all the emails to be stored in an index. In fact, the magic of all these tools is they can pull whatever context is necessary on demand and ignore everything else. For example, if you're asking, prepare me for my day, I just need to pull the calendar events for that particular day and the emails that have been unread on the top of your inbox for the last day or two, but not your entire inbox history. And so that's just like a tool call to all these different tools. It's not necessarily downloading them and indexing them.
But don't I want it? Look, here's the thing, and this is the complicated part. I would imagine ultimately, if you're going to rearrange my calendar for me on my behalf, you would want to know who was important to me, not based on the last 24 or 48 hours of emails, but maybe on the calendar and being able to look back even 2 or 3 years, or maybe be able to look into emails from 7 years ago to get the context on what's going on with this person, how is this person important in my life or not, Am I going to prioritize this person over the meeting that's currently scheduled right now? I mean, that's always been the hardest part about this dream that we all have that AI will one day schedule us for us.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what Comet tries to solve, because it's having a higher bandwidth access to understanding you through not just your emails, but everything else you do on the computer, your browsing history. You're basically onboarding Comet with your browsing history, but all that history stays locally on your device, on your client. It doesn't actually get sent to the servers. But anytime you ask Comet to do something, it tries to understand you by pulling your browser history. So if something is important to you, it is usually revealed in other things you do as well, not just stuff that's on your emails.
You know, one of the things that's so interesting about the way Perplexity works is you are leveraging so many different models. So which models are you using for this component part of the email, calendar, Comet program at any one time, or is it multiple models?
It's, as always, multiple models. In fact, building something like Comet requires orchestration of several different models. One model that truly reasons, one model that pulls context, one model that synthesizes and processes them, another model for like computer use, like capabilities to actually go and control websites or tools. And we see the future as something where people don't, I mean, we've been saying this even in the era of just AIs answering questions, where no one even cares what models are being used for what purposes, as long as this end-to-end system does what the user really wants. I think it's even more true in the agentic world, where the workflows are even more complicated.
As the frontier models get better and better, you know, each time OpenAI releases a new model, sometimes the prompting shifts in terms of how you get the answer, what kind of answers you can get, what you need to do to sort of get things to work the way they're supposed to. I don't know how quickly you think each of these frontier models is going to get upgraded and you then have to implement them into your own service, but what kind of challenge does that unto itself pose?
We definitely had a hard time adopting GPT-5, for example. We actually expected it to be a massive jump in capabilities, but for some reason, all the prompts that we had written for 4.1 never worked well for 5, and we spent several weeks trying to write a better prompt for 5, but we gave up and we just continue to use 4.1 for a majority of our workloads. They have since then improved some of their models, like GPT-5 Thinking is actually a pretty decent model, so definitely there are going to be challenges in adopting new models. Some other, for example, Anthropic tries to make sure there's good backward compatibility with the prompts that you've written for their previous generation of models. There's also the challenge of writing one prompt that can work across different model companies. For example, we've seen prompts that we write for Claude and GPTs work consistently well across both, but it doesn't actually work when we use models like Gemini.
I'm curious just to take a 30,000 foot step back for just a second. There's a lot of questions right now in AI about whether we're in this sort of gold rush or whether we're in some kind of sugar rush. I think a lot of people even looked at the investment that NVIDIA made in OpenAI, both as a good investment on one end, and on another, people said, well, maybe this is a little bit like vendor financing in the late 90s, where a lot of these companies ultimately don't have the cash to actually buy all the chips and do all the things that they've committed to do. What do you think?
Well, it's all about whether you can truly deliver value. If something like Comet can help you get your work done, like you said, you're trying to use it for emails. If instead of hiring one more person on your team, you could just use Comet to supplement all the work that you're doing, and that's worth like $10,000 a year, like that. And if you scale it by the number of people who are like you, that's clearly adding value to the GDP. It's letting you do more work, like the same unit of time. And I think the human value, conservatively estimated human digital knowledge work value contributions to the GDP is around $25 trillion. So we just need to do like at least 20% more productivity for that. And that would automatically take care of all the capex that NVIDIA wants OpenAI to spend, which is $4 trillion for 10 gigawatts, right? So we just need to do 5 trillion, like bare minimum, like table stakes. And I think we can do that.
That's extraordinary. And finally, a question about copyright, because there's a brouhaha in Hollywood right now about what OpenAI has announced in terms of an opt-out kind of program. There are questions about how publishers are going to join your Comet Pro subscription. I want to understand how that works. How do you think long-term folks who have copyrights are going to be paid or not?
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about Comet Plus. It's a program that we've put a lot of thought into as something like Apple News Plus that works in a world where both humans and AIs are going to consume content. As a company, we're not really interested in regurgitating existing content, like we're not training models on the tokens, but we want that content to surface in our answers. We want that content to be available to our agents that are going and doing deep research on behalf of the user. So not every bot is a faceless crawler bot. Like some bots are actually just doing work on behalf of the human, just like how you would have delegated an intern to do something for you. And that's why there needs to be one subscription plan, just like how you buy one subscription plan for your company that your team also uses. It's similar to that, where you and your personal AI can use the same thing. And we have Washington Post, we have CNN, we have Condé Nast,
Right.
several Fortunes, all of these joined, and we hope to expand the program to more people.
Okay. Aravind, love to see you hopefully in person at some point. Comet's fascinating. I do worry about, at some point we have to have a longer conversation about whether it can go off and do things without you knowing it, which is its own question. But we'll continue this conversation soon. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next on Squawk Pod, Austan Goolsbee, head of the Chicago Federal Reserve. What a jobs-less Friday means for the central bank. Employment data is half of what they take into account when deciding interest rate policy.
What you just described sounds like you're driving in the fog in the car and not really clear about what's ahead.
I do think that if you got dust in the air, if you got fog, a lot of times you might slow down.
You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC. Here's Becky Quick.
All right, it's 8:30. No jobs report today, but we have something better. We want to bring in our Steve Leisman and Chicago Fed President Austan Goolsbee. Steve.
I don't know about me being better, but Austan certainly has the potential here. Austan, thanks for joining us. Austan Goolsbee, Chicago Fed President. Austan, it's 8:30, 3:30, 8:39, and we don't have the jobs report. I want to know how confident you feel right now that you know what's going on in the U.S. economy.
Well, I will say two things. One, it's the first Friday of the month. We're sitting here on the quietest jobs day. So something's wrong with the universe. We didn't get the final countdown walk-on music. And so the Chicago Fed, not because we knew there was going to be a government shutdown, we didn't, but because we've been trying to get better real-time measures of what's happening in the job market, we've recently rolled out the Chicago Fed labor market indicators, and one of those indicators, we turn to 11 different data sources. We take the official data plus high-quality private sector sources, and one of the numbers that we keep is a real-time estimate of what will be the unemployment rate. So barring getting an actual unemployment rate, we released yesterday that the unemployment rate would have been announced to be 4.3%. That is unchanged and stay where it is.
Austan, I looked at that data and your methodology there, and it looks a little bit like you're California sober on that, in the sense that you have not really forsworn the official data. A lot of it's based on the official data. So
correct.
It seems like we're kind of cool in knowing
I totally agree.
Yeah, kind of cool in knowing what today might have been, but we don't know about, let's say, next week when we don't get jobless claims, although we are getting some state-level stuff. Goldman Sachs came out with a report this morning estimating that in the absence of two states, they think it would have been 224,000. But isn't it right, as time goes by, we lose contact with what we think is the reality? As time goes by, it will get
worse. There's no question the best jobs data in the world come from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We need that data. We want that data. We can use what we have, which are private sector sources. We can look at the state unemployment claims and plug those into the formula. Over time, exactly as you say, Steve, it's going to get farther and farther from the truth. Even the private sector sources rely on the BLS data to kind of normalize and make their samples representative. But we fight with the army we have. At moments like this, where it's critically important that we're figuring out whether the economy's in a moment of transition, this is what we have. And thus far, it still continues to point to a pretty stable labor market, in my view.
So does that keep you on the trajectory you were on? I'm trying to think, and I don't love this metaphor because I don't even watch anything about planes and problems, but you know, you're at 36,000 feet, you're cruising at 562 miles an hour with some kind of tailwind, whatever you want to call it, and one of your screens goes out. Do you keep on the same trajectory, which right now the market believes is to cut interest rates?
Well, look, you know that Paul Volcker used to tell me our job, that the Fed, is to act, and the market's job is to react, and let's not get the order mixed up. So what the market expects is not in the Fed's mandate. What should be in the decision of the Fed are the economic conditions, unemployment and inflation. That raises the degree of difficulty when we cover up one of the eyes or put a screen where you can't see the data. I think everyone on the FOMC has to come to their own determination of what does it mean for the trajectory. As you know, before we got into some of the dust in the air, I believe that the underlying economy rates can afford to come down over time in a gradual basis, a fair amount from where they are now. But this uptick of inflation that we've been seeing, coupled with the payroll jobs numbers deteriorating, have put the central bank in a bit of a sticky spot where you're getting deterioration of both sides of the mandate at the same time. If the inflation looks like it's going to be transitory, and I say that word with some fear, then I think the employment side of the mandate would be dominant. But with that, you see this uptick in inflation, and particularly the uptick in services inflation, which is probably not coming from tariffs. I'm a little wary about front-loading too many rate cuts and just counting on the inflation going away.
On Wednesday, Austan, we heard from ADP, and something with the overall revisions of the BLS was used to sort of explain why it was such a big miss on ADP in the private sector payroll. Did you hear that? Can you explain that? Was it a big miss? Was it as bad as it looked, or was it just catching up with the revisions that the BLS numbers had already told us?
Yeah, and now we can't ask folks at the BLS because we got a government shutdown. I don't want to weigh in on the revisions, except to say the BLS is the best data in the world, period. And all data, private sector and public sector data, because people don't like answering surveys and the response rate is falling, we're going to get bigger revisions. There's going to be more noise in all the data series. So the fact that we're in a moment where on immigration and on labor force participation, we've got some question marks that we don't know, mean that people should be wary over-indexing on monthly aggregates, which includes BLS payroll numbers. It includes ADP. If you over-index on that as a measure of the business cycle, you could make a big mistake. We saw that in 2023 and 2024 when we were getting very big monthly job growth numbers, and it wasn't a sign that the economy was overheating. It wasn't a sign of massive growth rates. It was a sign that population was changing in a way that we didn't understand. Do
you have a dog analogy? You got it. You only got two. Is that the sum total of your? You just.
Yeah.
How about
Look,
this? Did you hear
the
this
data
one?
Dogs? It's always the same analogy. But one of the key rules of the data dogs is sniff every piece of data that hits the kitchen floor because it might be food.
How about this? Have you heard this? If you want to run with the big dogs, you got to learn how to pee in the tall grass. You ever heard that one?
You the tall grass?
No, I'm not going to let you get me in trouble again, Joe.
That's a good one.
You got to stay in your own lane.
If you're a little dog, you cannot.
Austan, I got a question for you. And here's another analogy that we get back to. We have heard the analogy that from Jay Powell that this could be like driving a car in the fog, and when that happens, you slow down and wait to see what's going on. What you just described sounds like you're driving in the fog in the car and not really clear about what's ahead. Does that mean you'd be inclined to slow down or stay the path?
I do think that if you got dust in the air, if you got fog, a lot of times you might slow down. And the fundamental thing is we got to figure out the through line. You'd feel better driving in the fog if the road is straight, and you know that. Right. With these wrinkles coming from inflation, I think it behooves us, just as we said in the monetary policy framework, if both sides of the mandate are slowly deteriorating at the same time, we said we're going to look at how big the misses are on each side and how persistent we think they're going to be.
Can I just, I want to interrupt here for a second, which is that Austan is pointing to something that maybe the market doesn't understand.
Yeah, what's that?
You're about to not get the inflation data too.
Right.
Right. And the other thing I want to do is just...
It's not that both sides of the ledger
you're going to have
worse. You're not
fog on
know.
both sides. You don't know about the other thing. I want to make one political point if I could.
Oh, boy.
Which is this. Austan is also pointing out the following. The private sector has not, and I believe cannot step in to replace the massive measures that the government produces when it comes to the jobs report, trying to figure out the net monthly change in 160 million jobs in this country. Mm-hmm. And the private sector cannot and has not stepped in yet. There's other data out there, but Austan also pointed out almost all of it is re-benchmarked to the numbers that come from the government. Austan, I'm sorry to just take your time on that, but I want to make that point.
Look, that's
that
true. I don't consider that a political statement. That's not a political. Those are just statements of fact that the longer we go without the official statistics, the more blind we're going to be of what's happening in the economy. And there are more private sector observations that we can get on the job market than there are on inflation. That makes me nervous. We don't get a lot of ADP equivalence estimates of the actual prices. There are a few, but not a lot.
Hey, Austan, I have maybe a 30,000-foot question. We were just talking to the CEO of Perplexity about AI, and we've been watching all of these transactions with, NVIDIA taking a stake in OpenAI, and there have been all of these questions about whether the folks who are effectively buying or committing to buy chips that will ultimately build all these data centers, which are powering so much of this economy right now, ultimately can afford to do it. How do you even think about that?
I mean, we think about it from the Fed on the how does it affect employment or how does it affect prices? It could affect both, but that feels like a longer run version. If it's raising the productivity growth rate, and you saw him discussing that if they could raise productivity growth in services, that'd be a tremendous boon to the overall GDP, and I agree with that. In the short run, some of the most interest rate sensitive sectors include exactly the things like business fixed investment, where they're booming. They're not going down. You'd think if we were extra restrictive and you were nervous that was going to cause a recession, you'd look at it, interest rate sensitive sectors like the canary in the coal mine. But if you look at data centers, they're booming. We should think about what happens if the growth rate of AI is not as large as its biggest proponents think. Might we get over our skis a bit with overinvestment and have to clean up if there were a bubble? I think we do want to think about that topic.
Austan, thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll leave to later the discussion of a big dog, small dog, walking in tall grass or short grass. But we appreciate your joining us.
Sounds like you don't want to go out in Joe's dog's lawn.
No, I don't want to go there, and I didn't get back the time that he took to discuss that.
I'm gonna take some more. So,
no.
No, but you are so folksy. Have you ever copped to being born in Waco? Have you copped
what do you
to
mean,
that
cop
ever?
to being born in Waco? What does that mean?
Well,
you don't think I was born in Waco?
No, I do. Just, the whole, Chicago, I'm so highbrow. This the whole, the big city, thing that you're pulling off now.
Austin's always been a man of the people.
You grew up in Whittier, too.
I think.
Stick up for me, Becky. What are you? Where are you going with this, Joe? You think I'm a snob?
No, because you're very folksy. Like Dan,
That's why he's so
right.
relatable.
That's why he's so folksy and relatable, and one of our favorites. Now that can't say the things you really want to say because he's in the Fed.
I think he's doing pretty good.
He does.
What he wants,
but
to
he
say.
never takes it down that horrible path he used to take.
That you used to
remember?
try and drag him down?
Yeah, I still do.
Okay.
See you.
Good job, Austan.
See you, Austin. Thank you, sir. And that's going to do it for us for today, for this week. And what a week of news it has been. And I imagine we will have more weeks of news as we get to record highs and all of these things.
What's your prediction?
For the markets?
For the
Nope.
shutdown? For the
For the-
shutdown?
Oh, the shutdown? Oh.
Well, I doubt they're going to get there today.
They'll do something this week. They'll start
This
talking.
weekend?
They'll start talking.
They said he's not going to do anything over the weekend, though.
But they got to.
Okay. Well, make sure you join us on Monday for that answer and more.
Yes, we have all made it to Friday. That is Squawk Pod for the week. Happy weekend. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern. Follow Squawk Pod wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll meet you right back here on Monday.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.